So what do you make of that, Joe? I mean, is that a big failure on China's part? Because that could have landed anywhere.
Well, it's not that they could have controlled it. You don't know where the rocket's going or the debris, but the fact is that they should have had a number of precautions, a number of worldwide warnings. They should have looked a little more caring. But China's not more caring about these kinds. It's quite an arrogant thing too. And I might also mention that in yesterday's Global Times, they've threatened Australia with intermediate range ballistic missiles. So there's some debris headed towards Darwin and Tyndall and Sydney and maybe even Adelaide at the Edinburgh base. I mean, the Chinese are very heavy-handed right now, and I think it's a good thing that we're pushing back on the debris. But I'd like to see a little more diplomatic pushback right across the world. This is the last time to challenge the Chinese before a push comes to shove. So I think they'd be very impressed if someone pushed back. Just the other day, the Czechs threw out, I think, 20 members of the Russian embassy in Prague. I mean, the Russians retaliated, but Putin was very impressed that the Czechs pushed back, and Putin gave their guys 24 hours to get out, and the Czechs gave the usual 48 hours. So it's time to push back on all of these kinds of things.
Well, this is one paragraph from that piece that you just referred to then, Joe. It's from the Global Times, as we mentioned, which is the government, essentially the government mouthpiece, and it warns of retaliatory punishment over any incursion towards Taiwan. It says the plan, and this is a threat to Australia, the plan should include long-range missile strikes on the military facilities on Australian soil if it really sends its troops to China's offshore areas and combats against the PLA. So they're not mincing any words there, but do you think that would follow through with that?
Look, of course they will. I mean, they know that Australia is interoperable with the United States Armed Forces. They know the ANZUS Treaty is part of the Australian society fabric and all the rest. They know that's true. But look, Pete, I regard a threat like that as a very serious diplomatic error on their part. I mean, I think the Australian government, the foreign minister, should call the ambassador in. And I got to tell you, the writing of that particular op-ed piece suggested it was probably written in Canberra. It looks like it was written by one of the locals there, one of the locals in the embassy. And I'd call the ambassador in, and I'd ask him about it, and I'd ask him to repudiate it. And of course, he's not going to repudiate it. He's going to say, yes, Australia is a threat. I mean, is going to be threatened. And of course, they promised conventional missiles, conventional warheads. They're not going to send nuclear warheads. And they'd send about 15 or 20. They got 1,000 intermediate rockets like that. And, of course, not talking about nuclear weapons. And then after he fails to repudiate, I'd say expel him, declare him persona non grata, close the embassy. They're not doing any damn good here anyway. All they're doing is insulting people left, right, and center. They're not playing the game. But this is the last time Australia can actually stand up for itself without needing an 800-pound gorilla in the room. Because in the world of diplomacy, everybody is equal. And when you threaten another country with a strike on their homeland, it's time to tell the ambassador to go home, and that sends a very important message.
Yeah. I mean, does this also show that they're under the cosh at the moment? They're obviously feeling the squeeze.
Oh, yeah. I mean, look, Taiwan is everything to them. As I like to point out all the time, is that Taiwan is crucial to preserving the Communist Party, because they regard this as a sine qua non, and they're paranoid about it. And they're afraid of anybody getting involved, stopping them. And of course, Australia frightens the hell out of them, because Australia looks like it's actually standing up for a principle. Now, I don't think it has to come to this because of the Shanghai Communique and all the rest of it. But this is spun out of control. I mean, Chinese, because of Australia's commitment to these kinds of things, is threatening Australia's economic lifelines. It's going to ruin Australia's universities, which have already are falling over because of all the money they depended on from China, and all the wheat and the barley and the rest of it. Iron ore is the last thing standing between Australia and China in terms of civility. And of course, iron ore is made to make component parts of intermediate range ballistic missiles. It'd be ironical if Australia kept the only export going, the one they're going to drop on them. So this goes back to pig iron bill days, doesn't it?
Yeah, it does.
Or pig iron bill, yes.
It does, yeah. Joe Syracuse, we're out of time, but always good to chat with you, my friend. We'll talk to you again soon.
Okay.
So let's get some